Good morning. Welcome to SSUC's live stream for December the 13th, 2020. Certainly we're glad that you've joined us in this live or recorded video gathering. Along with my teammate Nancy Steves, along with many musicians in the room this morning, Katie and Lawrence Alexander, Catherine Kuhn, Janice Zalatak on vocals, and Ann Didluck. We are grateful that we can come to you today in this third Sunday in the season of Advent. We're joined as well by Joseph Louis and Brett in the booth, making all of this possible by live stream. Today in Alberta is a day where we are facing new restrictions in our battle to conquer this virus of COVID-19. Many of you, if you're joining us from different places in the world, have extended restrictions or ongoing restrictions. And this week we've had to come to the difficult realization that our Christmas is going to be very different. Perhaps we had that in the back of our minds all along, but with news this week of ways that we will be restricted in gatherings and meetings, we know that Christmas will be different. We'll need to find new ways to celebrate this year. And in that difficult news is grief. Grief that this very special celebration can't be what we thought it might be able to be. But also in this news is the understanding that we need to be resilient people. That in our resilience will come strength. And that is the focus of our gathering today. As we meet on this third Sunday of Advent, we recognize that now more than ever, we're in need of strengthening our resilience. And so as we gather in this time with each other, distanced as we may be, we are grateful that we can be community with one another. So wherever you happen to be, let's take a moment of gratitude for the communities that we join with, digitally, by phone, by email, by text, by video chat, in all the ways that we connect with community. We're grateful for the ways that you connect with us and we with you through this service, through this live streaming and video. We are grateful for that. And as we take that time, we also recognize that we are a people of place, that we can join wherever we are. Whether we're in South Edmonton, like we are here in the SSUC building, to honor that all of us in Edmonton and area, as well as Saskatoon and area, join together in gratitude for this Treaty 6 territory. That we join and partner with all those who have gone before and all those that continue the work of reconciliation and partnership. To recognize this land is something beautiful, something special. Wherever you happen to be, we hope you take a moment for that gratitude for the history and the rich traditions, the First Nation land where you happened to find yourself and call home.
If you, like Annabelle and Don Shepherd, have created in your home an Advent candle lighting space, we invite you now to join us as we light the Advent candles in this place, or whatever candle you have at hand, as we light our way through this December darkness toward winter solstice and the festival of Christmas, we've been marking this season as a time for care. We relight the first Advent candle for the first letter in our care, a candle for connection. This flame reminds us that this is a time to be creative in our connection to our planetary home and to bring the light of connection to those we love in innovative and creative ways in this pandemic time. This is also a season we affirm the archetypal truths of the stories that give us this season, that we are the Marys and we are the bearers of sacred light. We are the Gabriels, affirming the sacred in one another. So we relight the candle for the second letter in our care, for the A of affirmation. And today we light the third candle of Advent, the candle of resilience. What is more resilient than the sacred spark at the heart of all life? Each flame is a way of lighting our path in the darkness of this time. And sometimes, all we can do is light a candle, and it is enough.
A short story for our Time for All Ages this morning that speaks not only of a symbol of the season, but something of persistence. It's entitled How to Catch a Star, and it's by Oliver Jeffers. Once there was a star. Nope, I got it wrong already. Let me start again. Once there was a boy, and the boy loved stars very much. Every night the boy watched the stars from his window and wished he had one of his very own. He dreamed how this star might be his friend. They'd play hide and go seek. They'd take long walks together. The boy decided he would try to catch a star. He thought that getting up early in the morning would be best, because then the star would be tired from being up in the sky all night. So the next day he set out at sunrise, but he couldn't see a star anywhere. He sat down and waited for one to appear. He waited, and he waited, and he ate lunch, and he waited, and after dinner, he waited some more. Finally, just before the sun was about to go away, he saw a star. The boy tried to jump up, grab it, but he couldn't jump high enough. So very carefully, he climbed to the top of the tallest tree he could find, but the star was still way out of reach. He thought he might lasso the star with the life belt from his father's boat. But it was much too heavy for him to carry. He thought he could fly up in his spaceship and just grab the star. But it turns out his spaceship had run out of fuel last Tuesday when he flew to the moon. Perhaps he could get a seagull to help him fly up to the sky to reach his star. The only seagull he could find didn't want to help at all. The boy thought he would never catch a star. Just then, he noticed something floating in the water. It was the prettiest star he'd ever seen, just a baby star. It must have fallen from the sky. He tried to fish the star out with his hands, but he couldn't reach it. Then he had an idea. The star might wash up on the shore. He ran back along the jetty to the beach. Then he waited, and he walked, and he watched, and he waited. And sure enough, the star washed up on the bright golden sand. The boy had caught a star of his very own. The wonderful thing about this and many stories is they show the ability to try and try and try. Resilience is about being persistent. It's about keeping at something, but it's about more than that. Persistence is about learning and developing the ability to keep trying, to be persistent without it being a chore. To keep going without it being a pain to have to do again and again, something we groan and moan about. Resilience is about letting it become a natural part of us, an innate ability to persist because it's what we truly want to achieve. We truly want to move forward. Lots of ways to catch a star. And isn't it fun in the process to persist? What a better way to learn about resilience.
This is an excerpt from Resilience, Hard-Won Wisdom for Better Living. Words of Eric Greitens and Jen Gilliam. Webster's dictionary defines the concept of resilience in physics as the capability of a strained body to recover its size and shape after deformation, especially if the strain is caused by compressive stresses called elastic resilience. As it applies to people, the spin-off definition of resilience is recovery or bouncing back after stress. When we see this definition in physics, we're led to believe that resilience for humans is about bouncing back after stress or returning to who we were or what we were before hard rain hit us and soaked us to the bone. Elastic resilience would lead me to believe that once I dried off, I'd be just the same as I was before the rain fell. You know, I'd go back to being normal. But what's done cannot be undone. Life's reality is that we cannot bounce back. We can't bounce back because we cannot go back in time to be the people we used to be. The parent who loses a child never bounces back. The 19-year-old who sails for war is forever gone, even though they return. You know there's no bouncing back. There is only moving through, because what happens to us becomes part of us. Resilient people don't bounce back from hard experiences. They find healthy ways to integrate them into their lives. In time, people find that great calamity met with great spirit can create great strength. In these words, may we find some wisdom we need for our living.
You've heard of the proverb, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. I wonder if you've heard of these ones. If at first you don't succeed, then maybe you should try it the way I told you to in the first place. How about this? If at first you don't succeed, call it version 1.0. Or maybe my favorite, if at first you don't succeed, try 2 or more times so that your failure is statistically significant. Last night, I made Swedish meatballs. It's one of the recipes that I experimented with in 2020 and one of my new favorites to make. Pretty tasty, savory meatballs with this really rich, creamy sauce and mashed potatoes. Most of the times, I'm fairly okay at multitasking, but get me in the kitchen, and it seems like my mind can only do one thing at a time. So last night, I was almost at the end. I had the perfect gravy. It tasted great, was the right consistency. The potatoes were almost finished boiling, and so I got the strainer into the sink, ready to dump the potatoes. Strainer's in the sink. I go back to the stove, grab the gravy, and dump the gravy in the strainer and down the drain. Now, my eyes saw this happening, couldn't believe it, and so I stopped. Not before I'd lost half the gravy, but maybe not before I saved half the gravy is the better way to look at it. It's so weird how stupid mistakes are so funny after the fact, but so damn frustrating at the moment. Our third focus in our time for care is resilience. And resilience, this ability to make positive adaptations in the face of challenges. Much of the work of spiritual practice is in an effort to create a life of more resiliency. I'd venture to guess that most of us are working on exercising our resiliency muscles right now and over the past many, many months, trying to find ways to endure the challenges that we're faced with all of a sudden, to make the best of being at home or being isolated or working under much more difficult conditions. We are all trying our best. I appreciate the words of Eric Greitens when he writes, "What happens to us becomes a part of us." What happens to us becomes a part of us. There will be no going back, I can guarantee you, in my household, of telling the stories of the time when Dad poured the gravy down the sink. Because that's the way families work. We help each other remember, whether we want to or not. There is no going back. We incorporate the things that happen to us into our stories. And as Eric Greitens continues, resilient people don't bounce back from hard experiences. They find healthy ways to integrate them into their lives. This is really important, much more important than the funny, crazy, stupid things we do around the house, and much more important when it comes to the real challenges, griefs, and difficulties we face. It is like those wise people among us who say, we won't be going back to normal after this pandemic. We will be creating a new normal. This speaks to resilience not as a bouncing back, but as discovering healthy ways to integrate and move forward in a new way. I always find my ears pricking up when I hear someone on the radio or on a podcast saying things like ways that we might find a new normal. I find these to be very compelling and creative conversations. Now, we're confronted with these images of resilience given to us by the first Christmas story. The tale of a young couple making a harrowing journey to be registered in their hometown. And despite being late in pregnancy, Mary and her husband Joseph travel to Bethlehem. And just as they arrive, the time comes for her to give birth. They can't find a place to stay, and ultimately she gives birth in a stable and have to use an animal's food trough as a crib to lay the baby. That is such a familiar story, but when you stop and think about it, it is an incredible story. It has everything you want in a good drama. It has a new relationship. It has a long journey. The dramatic tension of whether they'll make it or not. Whether they'll make it in time, a birth, some cute animal sidekicks. It's no wonder we tell it again and again. And an added bonus to this story is we get some wisdom in resilience. We can find it in a couple of different ways. We can find it in the skill and the spiritual practice of reframing. It would be easy when faced with a long journey on foot in the 9th month of pregnancy to just throw in the towel, to see it as impossible, to find excuses not to take the journey at all. If we are resilient people, though, we are able to look at a challenge with different eyes. Eyes that say, how? How can I look at this differently and make it seem possible? I quote Reaching In, Reaching Out, a Canadian evidence-based program for teaching resiliency. Research has demonstrated that the number one roadblock to resilience is not genetics, not childhood experiences, not a lack of opportunity or wealth. The principal obstacle to tapping into our inner strength and resilience lies with our thinking style. We are most often held back by ourselves, the messages, patterns, thoughts that keep replaying inside of our heads. End quote. How we construct the initial questions that we come up with and our initial responses to our challenges, and what patterns we fall into when we ask those questions and have those thoughts is very important in determining the outcomes of how we'll make it through that challenge. Many of us focus on who caused the problem. Whose fault is it? And some of us obsessive over the fact that it was probably our fault, and we beat ourselves up over it as a result. Other times, we clearly point the finger at someone else and say, it was their fault. They made this happen. If only they didn't do that. And we spend a lot of mental energy on blaming another. A lot of us ask questions when faced with a challenge, how long will it last? And sometimes we say, it's okay, this will not be forever, I can make it through this short time. And other times we just don't have the energy and we think that it's a problem that is going to be forever and I'll have to deal with it till the day I die, and it's going to be all-consuming forever and ever. We also ask the question, how much of my life does this problem affect? And the same dichotomy happens. Sometimes we think we can put this problem over here and deal with it and everything else carries on, and other times our framing of the problem makes it consume everything. I'm not saying that there's a right and a wrong way to respond to those questions. What I'm suggesting is we start to notice how we're answering those questions. Noticing the patterns in our thoughts can make a big difference. Perhaps we minimize the impact of a challenge. Try to downplay it. Don't take it seriously enough. When we notice that, we can start paying attention to how that affects the people around us. Or perhaps we exaggerate the impact of a challenge and make it the only thing we think about and the only thing we can talk about with those around us. When we notice these things about us and our thought patterns, we can start to think about how we might reframe, with an eye toward balance between responsibility and giving ourselves permission to be human, the grace we need to be ourselves. When we challenge our thinking styles and move beyond our preferred traps, we put our thoughts and instincts on notice that we're aware of their patterns. We might not be able to change them right away, but we're aware of them. And we increase our resilience by becoming aware of our patterns, whether healthy or unhealthy. We say to ourselves, I'm not going to think or believe this just because I've always thought that way. The second thing the Christmas story teaches us about resilience is about the strength of our relationships. Again, from the same Center for Resiliency, Dr. Cordich Hall describes healthy relationships as one of the biggest indicators of a strong resiliency muscle. Strong, healthy relationships. And we know this as people who are part of a community like this one. There's value in relationships that accept us for who we are and want the best for us. These are the people we know we can come to when we need help. These are the people we know we can trust with our reality and how we are seeing things and what's going on in us. And the healthier our relationships are, the stronger our resilience will be. And if some of our relationships don't give us that permission, we know that we have to focus on the ones that do. I think we've heard the stats. It's not the number of friends and acquaintances that one has, it's the depth and honesty, the trust and acceptance that can be shared between people that is the most important. Even one person in our lives that we can talk to, that we can rely on, that's enough for us to be strong and resilient. It only takes one. And so in this story, we recognize Mary and Joseph are taking this journey on their own. But they have one another. Strengths and weaknesses blending together, working together. And so we ask whether we live with many or live alone, whether we have multiple friends and acquaintances and contacts or very few, it doesn't matter. But that we cultivate relationship that can be trustworthy, that leads to our resilience. So who is the Joseph to your Mary? The Jonathan to your David? The Ruth to your Naomi? The Calvin to your Hobbes? Having each other person to person or in caring community, we are healthier for it. And if you don't have even that one person, then we invite you to reach out. Heck, reach out to us. It only takes one. And any number of us in community can be that one. There's one last piece that I think the Christmas story teaches us about resilience. It's living with a sense of openness. It's living with a sense that the way we've been doing things, the way we currently are doing things, the way we plan to do things, might not always be the best way. It may turn out so, but entering into a situation where we assume that we know that we have the best answer or the only answer, or the most effective process is a sure way to a closed-off perspective. And when we have a closed-off perspective, we become brittle, much easier to break. Being open is the attitude that lets us acknowledge that there isn't just one way to catch a star. There isn't one right way to start a family, even if it's in a barn. We open ourselves, and as we do that, we recognize that it is something to put in our spiritual toolbox, an exercise for our resilience muscle. We know that being open doesn't automatically give us the best answers. It doesn't prescribe solutions to life's problems, but it does enable us to see differences, and to approach challenges with something different within us, not an immediate sense of worry or dread, not an immediate overconfidence, but a permission to say, there are options. I want to hear and see about them. And it opens the door to a heightened awareness of possibilities. There's an old Buddhist saying that goes like this: life is like potter's clay, changing shape from day to day. As stars sparkle in the sky, light and dark go quickly by. What's the future? No one knows. But it's peace we seek in both highs and lows. So friends, we'll come out of this time together. We'll come out the other side of whatever it is we're dealing with. It's been a long time since March, and we're all tired, but we're showing great resilience. We're showing care in our relationships, in our openness, and in our ability to reframe our challenges toward productive and healthy directions. It will lead us not to bounce back, but to be strengthened by what we've endured, all of us. It will create in us a new depth and a new wisdom. And isn't that something to celebrate? When we get there, there will be time for it. Someday. But for now, we build our resiliency muscles. We care for each other. And we tend to the present. So may it be so for you in so many different ways. Amen. We'll share a few announcements of those things that are coming up, and I want to invite you to today's session of Going Deeper, happening in just a few minutes at 11:15 a.m. on Zoom. It's a chance to talk with each other about the ideas you've heard today and your experiences and reactions to what that has drawn out of your thinking. If you need the link to that Going Deeper session, you'll find it either in your e-messenger that you received this week, or you can visit the website as you see it listed on your screen. I want to thank everyone for the way you have supported SSUC. There have been so many ways that you've supported us in supporting our fundraising efforts in the Cookie Walk, in your regular donations, and even already in your special offerings that you're giving to our Christmas No Room in the Inn campaign. Thank you for all these ways you're contributing to the good work that we try to do each and every week here at SSUC. You can donate by those methods on your screen, and we thank you for considering donating to us if you've never donated before. It helps to support all that we continue to do. A few things about the Christmas season coming up. If you have children in your household or your extended family, you might talk to them about helping us tell the Christmas story this year. This is a little bit of the last call for participation in a little Christmas story video project that we're putting together. If you'd like to participate with your family, you'll be given a small piece of the Christmas story to record at home. Maybe you'll read it together. Maybe you'll get a little bit creative. Maybe you'll find a costume that you've got lying around your house, or a bathrobe, or whatever you've got. Or maybe you'll tell it with a nativity scene that you've got and can voice the characters. In whatever way that you might choose to participate, we're looking for a few more households to join in this Christmas video project. Then we'll edit that all together and have a really fun way to tell the Christmas story this year, since we can't do it here in community all together. And it'll be a chance for our families and our young people to see each other, something that they haven't been able to do for a little while. So please participate by letting me know if you'd like to, by tomorrow, if you please. And then you'll hear back more from me in the coming week. Also, we have the chance to gather for a Blue Christmas gathering this Wednesday, December the 16th at 7 p.m. This is an opportunity to be together in all of the emotions that Christmas brings. It's not just joy and fa-la-la, but it is also a difficult time, a challenging time for all of us, because Christmas brings new griefs, old griefs, and many challenges for us to celebrate this season. So join us together this Wednesday at 7 p.m., or after the fact, it'll be available on our website as well. The same is true for the live stream of A Christmas Carol, spoken word play, enhanced by musical interludes by all the people that you know and love from your SSUC community. So join us on Saturday the 19th at 7 for the live stream of A Christmas Carol. If you appreciate that time, we're inviting donations, for the No Room in the Inn campaign this year. You can see more details about that in the weekly messenger. Christmas Eve, likewise, live streamed on the 24th at 7 p.m. And if you and your plans with your household don't allow 7 p.m. to work for you, that Christmas Eve gathering experience will be available also anytime after that on our website. So please join us for all these ways that you might be together with us through the Christmas season.
There are many ways to pray, but ultimately our prayers are our hope, our wish, our desire for the world, for ourselves, for those we love. So together, we take this moment to offer that prayer as we strengthen our intentions for the ways we would choose to live this day and in the days to come. We pray with one another in the words you find before you. We affirm our need for well-being. May we live our lives mindfully, choosing thoughts, words, and understandings that heal and uplift ourselves and others. When we notice imbalance in our body, mind, or spirit, may we find strength and wholeness. Let's continue to seek connection, affirm the worth of ourselves and others, and seek attitudes and practices that build resilience. May our ability to love and to be loved in return be our highest aspiration that leads to compassionate and healing actions, as those having found, yet are ever seeking. Amen. In the wisdom of Jesus of Nazareth, first century writers have him encourage his followers not to hide their light, but to let it shine in whatever darkness within and around them. As we change our light today, we recognize the resilience of light. When the flame is extinguished, The energy of the light is released in a new form. However dark our days and nights, there is a light that shines in the darkness. We belong to that light in its many and varied expressions. May you be safe. May you be well until we're together again.